many of you can bench press 150 pounds? Okay, football players, wrestlers, keep your hands up. Okay, cross-country runners, golfers who had your hands up, come on. I was a cross-country runner. I guess there are some cross-country runners who can bench press that much. But if I was willing to pay anybody who could come to this stage and bench press 150 pounds, $1 million, how many of you would try? Everybody, right? It would be silly not to try. How many, if you haven't been preparing over a period of time, if you haven't been putting in the hours, the days, the weeks, in the weight room, how many of you would be able to bench press that amount? With $1 million on the line, if you had had no preparation? Probably very few people. Preparation is absolutely vital and key. I lived in Minnesota for a couple of years, and while I was there, I was coaching a Little League baseball team, and I played right field in Little League, which means what? You play right field in Little League, it means you can't play baseball. But I wanted to be on the team, and this coach had asked me to help him out. He had to have an assistant coach, and we were coaching the Kings. It was a recreational district in the inner city of Minneapolis, Martin Luther King Park, and they were named the Kings. And it was a great team. The kids loved to play baseball, and they were incredibly good. So good, we got into the championship series. And we were going to be playing teams not just from the inner city, but from all of the Twin Cities. And our first game was against Golden Valley. And there was a Baptist minister who drove around and picked all of our boys up. Not many parents would come to our games. And Mr. Bob showed up, 8 kids got out of the van. 8 kids. And we were kind of worried, where's everybody else? A lot of kids were on vacation, it was the middle of the summer, championship season was in August, and lots of kids were gone. And then Golden Valley arrived. And Golden Valley pulled up, it's a suburb from the west of Minneapolis. They pulled up in a huge, giant charter bus. Not a school bus, a big silver bus, and it said Knights in big letters across the side. Our kids on our team had t-shirts and trucker caps. That was their uniform. The kids got off of Golden Valley's bus, the Knights, and they were in full uniforms. Stirrup socks, 22 identical players. 4 coaches got off dressed just like them. And then the parents started to arrive. And they pulled up in their Lexuses and their Mercedes and their Range Rovers, and they got out the big picnic coolers and set them out on the grass. There were around 200 parents, family members there to support the Knights. And we had one mom who had showed up to support our 8 kids. And the umpire comes over and said, where's your team? And we said, you know, just give us a few minutes. And the hour arrived, it was time to start the game, and we had to forfeit. We only had 8 players. And the Golden Valley team was nice enough to send over 2 of their scrawniest kids so we could play a scrimmage. And that's what we decided to do. We'd have a scrimmage. And who should run over the hill at the last moment but Paul? Paul showed up. Now we had 9 players, but we'd already forfeited. And you think our team would be excited. Yeah, Paul's here. But Paul played right field. Which meant what? He couldn't play baseball. And Paul always showed up. It should have surprised us he was there because he was always there. And he always practiced incredibly hard, even though he never really got better. Like, for example, when he batted, he swung at everything. He wanted to hit the ball so hard in a game, and he hadn't all season, that he always swung, always. He was a really smart kid, just not very athletic. And our team's like, yeah, Paul's here. And we had 9 guys. And the other 4 coaches, they came over and they said, look, you've got 9 people, we've got our team. Let's play a regulation game. Let's not just do a scrimmage. Let's play a regulation game. We're like, okay, fine, great, let's have a regulation game. So we did. And our kids had taken one look at their team when they arrived, and they lost. When they saw them show up in the bus and all the uniforms, and in that moment they lost because they played an awful, awful game. We didn't even get a run on the board in the first 6 innings. Top of the 7th, the score was 7-0, and Golden Valley was winning. And our first guy gets up, bats, and strikes out. Next guy gets up, pop fly, and the third person in the lineup was Paul. And, you know, it's going to be our last batter because Paul swung at everything. And we told him, we said, Paul, don't swing. We know you want to hit the ball, but don't swing. Please, don't do it. You might get a walk. He hadn't been on base all season because he never got a walk because he swung at everything. Don't swing, Paul, okay? Don't swing. If you swing, it's going to be our last out. The game is over. We lose. Don't swing. He goes up, first pitch, and he swings. Strike one. He looks over at us, and we said, Paul, don't swing. Don't swing. The other coach, the head coach, Chris, he said, Paul, please, okay, I'll buy you a sundae if you don't swing. Second pitch comes in. It's a really good pitch, and Paul swings. Strike two. He looks over at us. Paul, don't swing. Please, Paul, don't swing. The pitcher kind of understood what was going on. He kind of got it. And he threw a kind of a high ball. You know, he lobbed it in really high. He was kind of playing with Paul, kind of toying with him, because he knew he was going to swing. And we're yelling, Paul, don't swing, don't swing. And he lobs it in. And Paul couldn't help himself. He wanted to hit it so bad. He swung. And strike three, the ball hits the catcher's mitt, drops out of the catcher's mitt, and rolls into the backstop. Now, I didn't know this. I wasn't familiar with my parliamentary procedure manual. Yeah, I didn't know the rule book. So I didn't know this rule. But if the catcher drops the ball and it rolls away on the third strike, what can the batter do? And my coach, Chris, the coach I was working with, starts yelling, run, ball, run, run, run! Paul looked around and then started running. Ran as fast as he could towards first base. The catcher scrambling around, looking in the tall weeds for the ball. Finally finds it, picks it up, and throws it to first base. I was the first base coach. I was standing next to this crackerjack first baseman, ready to catch the ball. He was a good kid, knew exactly what he was doing, and I knew, it was stupid to think this way, but I knew he was going to catch the ball. And he did. He caught the ball, and Paul tagged first base. And then, I kid you not, the ball rolled out of the top of his mitt, and it hit the ground. And for the first time that season, Paul was safe at first base. And the kids on the Kings baseball team went nuts. They couldn't believe, not just that they were still in the game, but that Paul had gotten to first base. And they were jumping up and down and screaming and yelling. They were going crazy. And the next guy got up, and he whacked that ball out into the outfield, way over the center fielder's head. Next guy gets up, whacks the ball, home run, those guys come in. Player after player got up. They were so full of it. It was like they'd drinking a dozen Red Bulls. But it was natural. They were on such a high. They were knocking the ball out of the park. They scored 9 runs that inning. 9 runs, and we were ahead of Golden Valley. Golden Valley had the last bat. They managed to get runners on second and third, 1 out left. We had a pop fly, and those kids from Martin Luther King Park, they beat those kids from Golden Valley. And those kinds of things only happen in movies, right? But the reason they happen in movies is because they also happen in real life. And Paul was the kind of kid who always showed up. Now, you may not be the best baseball player on your team, but if you're willing to prepare, if you're willing to always show up, you'll be a champion. I kept track of Paul through his parents, and I found out that in the 90s, when he graduated from high school, he went to the University of Minnesota, got an engineering degree, went on to get a master's in computer science. He started working for a little company I know you've heard of called Google about 8 years ago. And most of the tech companies in the Valley give their employees stock every single year. I don't know how many millions of dollars Paul is now worth. I don't know if it's 10 or 15 or 20, depends on the price of the stock. But Paul is someone who's a champion. Allow yourself to be open to possibilities. Allow yourself to choose those things that are important to you. Be willing to repair. Idaho FFA, thank you for letting me be a small part of your convention today. I believe in the future, and I believe in every single one of you. Thank you so much for letting me.